get all the glory. 'Cause you're the author of my story. You get all the glory. 'Cause you're the author of my story. My mama always said when it rains it pours. Growing up sleeping on sheets and floors, she worked her fingers to the bone so we can eat some more. People like me is who I'm speaking for. And I didn't understand sometimes why it was so hard to get a piece of mind. I was tired of that grief of mine. I told you I was cool, you could see I was lying. But your boy didn't trip. In this life, man, I held my grip. And I won't jump ship. I keep my feet grounded so I won't slip. Lord, you know the plans that you have for me to prosper and succeed. That's what your words say. So I'ma keep it straightforward, no wordplay. You get all the glory, Lord God, 'cause you're worthy. You get all the glory. 'Cause you're the author of my story. The glory. 'Cause you're the author of my story. Yeah. Sin had me separated like water and grease, but evidently you knew, Lord, that I would be redeemed. You knew that I would put down the drink and come out the clubs. You knew that I would put down the drugs and stop being a thug. You knew that you would still love me, Lord, no matter what. When I thought it was over, yeah, you came in the clutch. The devil thought he had a shot, but you got the block. That's when I made a fast break for the pearly gates. And look at me now, yeah, you changed me. And I've never been the same since you came and saved the day. Lord, I know it's not a game, I will never be ashamed as a Christian. Yeah, to you I bow down. Yeah, you made me, and you knew who I would be right when you created me. You're the potter, I'm the clay. Continue to have your way, Lord. You get all the glory. You get all the glory, Lord. 'Cause you're the author of my story. You get all the glory. 'Cause you're the author of my story. Yeah.
Good evening, nephew. It's your Deacon Boston. Listen, I just wanted to get back with you and check on you. Now listen, there's a scripture that says don't do anything only to get ahead. And don't you do it because you're proud. Instead, be humble and value others more than yourselves. Philippians 2:3. Yeah, I just want to know, are you still doing that? Because the people are listening. Let them use you.
Sometimes I have to just remind myself that it's not about them and it's not about me. 'Cause I don't wanna get ahead of myself. I'm just working for the Lord. I'm just working for my King. I don't want you to think that it's about me. No. Because it's not. I say it's not about me. I don't want you to think that it's about me. No. Because it's not. I say it's not about me. It's about G.O.D. Let me make it plain to see. Yeah. Think about others, not just think about me. Yeah. Gotta stay humble. Hands up if you know what I mean. I value others, 'cause it's just not about me. No. I try my best to consider others before myself. But the Lord knows sometimes I struggle and I need his help. I ain't trying to be nobody's hero. God brought your boy from zero. I know who I am in Christ. I don't have to think twice when I'm serving the people. Every now and then I trip and stumble, but I gotta keep working. That's the kind of stuff that keeps me humble. 'Cause I know I'm not perfect. No. Don't know what you came to see, 'cause you already know it's all about God. It's not about me. I don't want you to think that it's about me.
What's up, everyone?
I'm Keedron.
And I'm Katura, and we are the Bostons. Welcome to Talking with the Bostons tonight. We have almost a dope conversation, but it's a fun conversation.
For sure.
I think it's new. This one is definitely new to us.
Most definitely. Yeah.
So glad you joined us tonight.
Glad y'all joined us. Hope y'all have been doing good. We miss y'all. So glad to be back. It's been a good week. Been a busy season for us. Like we had a lot going on. Yeah. Definitely a good Sunday for us. It's a good Sunday. God is good. Like I enjoyed service on today with the students today. It was really good.
It was a good time. And for those of you who don't know us, Keedron and I are children's ministry pastors and youth leaders in our church. And so on Sundays, we get to serve the greatest in the kingdom, the youngest members of the congregation.
Come on now.
And we enjoy what we get to do. But we want to jump into this topic. If you are tuning in now, you have seen the topic of today's conversation. And I said this maybe like a month ago. We were getting a lot of questions. At least I probably get more questions than Keedron does about us homeschooling Zoe. But when I mentioned it, like my comment section flooded like, oh, I want to know more. And people had questions. And so in passing, people had questions about it. But now we said we're just going to get down to it and kind of have a conversation about it. So that's what we're doing tonight. This is about education and why we homeschool.
Yeah, for real. So thank you for tuning in from YouTube, from the Facebook, Talking with the Bostons group. Thank y'all for locking in with us. Please give us some shout outs on how you're doing today. Let's continue to be engaging in the comments. We'll definitely be looking over so we can kind of see what y'all are saying. Definitely have any questions, anything that we can speak to. We'll definitely love to hear. So let's just jump into this.
Yeah.
So our youngest daughter, Zoe, it was this time last year. Around this time last year. Zoe was in 6th grade. Yeah. And it was around this time last year. You're correct. There was this crazy storm that had happened around this time last year. And I remember Zoe had just gotten a phone like maybe 3 weeks prior for her birthday. Yeah. And on this particular day, they were releasing kids early and were having, they were sending out emails and kids were getting picked up and all that. And we started getting nervous because Zoe called us crying. Now, this is in the midst of us trying to figure out, like, we're about to leave work. We're going to pick up Zion. Our oldest son is across the city. Yeah, we had just picked up Symphony.
We had just picked up Symphony, but we're in traffic because at this point, like, the city was notifying all of the parents of their students saying like there's ice on the road, it's a bad weather day, we're releasing early. So as you can imagine, across the city, parents are trying to get to their kids, and teachers alike. Teachers have kids, and so the schools and the parents are really communicating a lot. Zoe calls us crying, but she calls from a number that I don't recognize. And it is not common for us to even answer unknown or unrecognizable numbers.
Go ahead and leave a message.
Yes, but in this case, I think her friend texted. And then I called, or some kind of way we end up getting on the phone with Zoe, and she's crying. I'm sorry, I was a bad storyteller because I was just having a flashback of hearing my baby. Yeah. But she was crying because as they were gearing up to leave this emergency situation, at least for the kids, it really feels that way. One of her coaches took her cell phone and accused her of trying to video record or take pictures. And Zoe was like, I wasn't recording. I wasn't taking pictures. Right. We all had our phones. We're about to get on the bus. And now I have to get on the bus and come home. And I don't have my phone and I didn't do anything. And so at that point, I'm like, I'm livid. I'm so upset because I'm like, this is not the time to be playing with people and their kids about these phones like any other time. It's learning time. It's class time. It's just a time where you're not allowed to have it out. I understand that. Like, we are educators, or we were more formally in the school system. So we understand that. We understand protocol, rules, regulations, and all students following that, right? But in this instance, it was heartbreaking and heart-wrenching to hear her on the other side of the phone crying and nervous and scared, and have her phone taken right before she has to get on the bus. And they don't know when they're going back to school. I think they ended up being out for about 2 or 3 days.
Yeah, it was a few days. Yeah.
And it was during this 3 days. There was a series of things that happened before,
Yeah.
but that particular day was the straw that broke the camel's back for us concerning Zoe in this particular institution. And unfortunately, when we made the decision, it was fortunate and unfortunate. It wasn't it was unfortunate that it had to get to that point. We had a lot of miscommunications trying to get in touch with school officials about teachers, things that were going on, just the ways that Zoe was having encounters with educators on the campus, the way her friends were, the stories that they were coming home telling.
Yeah.
Like, it was just ridiculous. Like, we're like, this happened during the school day, this happened during class. Like, why did she say that? Why would anybody say that? What did you do? What did they do? It was just day after day after day. And us trying to inquire, it caused Zoe to kind of get singled out a little bit. And we saw that happening, where she was starting to be, I don't want to say bullied because that's not the word, but she was singled out, and there was a teacher trying to blackball her a little bit.
Yeah.
But just from the very beginning of this school year of 6th grade, it was just thing after thing after thing. And what it pointed back to ultimately, that as a system of leaders and leadership, there were fractures there. And as a former school leader, myself, it was very obvious to me what was happening. And so I'm very, very well able to tell at what level there's a breach in the system and where there's breaches in communication. So what I was seeing caused me to run out of grace for this situation. I think within the first couple of months, because just by virtue of me saying it was a couple of months, no interaction with the parent trying to reach a teacher or a school administrator should take a couple of months. And it took more than a couple of months, because it happened never.
Yeah.
It literally happened never, even up until the day that we said we're going up here to withdraw her completely and fully and permanently. Never saw a teacher, never saw an administrator.
Yeah.
Literally, there was a temp at the desk. And I spoke to the registrar who was responsible for getting me. I handed her the official homeschool intent letter, and she gave me in return the copy of Zoe's grades up to that point as a 6th grader. And that was literally it.
Yeah. And I think that was the thing too, that really solidified, like, this is a place that maybe this is a place our daughter definitely didn't need to be. And I don't think, I mean, I'm not sure, regardless whether they were in transition or not from an admin and their leadership, of course, we understand transition, those kind of things.
Yes.
There are things that will get overlooked.
And we're culture specialists in school, so we understand that. We've seen it.
Right. But something like this, our daughter was
an A
student, definitely honor roll student, didn't have any write-ups. She hadn't been to the office. She hadn't been, having those type of issues. It was just when it was time for us to have conversations, there was no follow-through. There was no follow-up, and we can only do so much as parents. I mean, I'm definitely not trying to go up to these schools and be Black Daddy. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But at the same time, we do what we can control. You know what I'm saying? We can't control how other people respond and how other people act, but we do know that we are responsible for the health and well-being of our children, mentally, spiritually, socially, emotionally. I mean, look, we're going to do everything that we can to make sure that they're in an environment where they can thrive. And so ultimately we felt like that wasn't the place. And that day really solidified it for me, definitely personally, because nobody came to check out to ask why, to ask, hey, what's happening? What's going on? Being in education and working at a middle school and a high school for years, there's no way that, I mean, at the schools that I've served at, that those kind of things would happen. You know what I mean? At least we can at least sit down and have a conversation about it. And so for me, and I fully trust what, her capability is, what our capability is, to make sure that we,
provide the best education at home for our daughter. And I was fully confident in what
Yeah.
you could do and what you know,
Mhm.
as far as resources and
For
everything that
sure.
you're equipped to do. So that gave me peace.
Yeah.
That gave me peace too, because
That's good. That's
that's
interesting.
yeah.
Is that honestly at that point, I wasn't even thinking about my credentials, my
Mhm.
training,
Gotcha.
my
Yeah.
ability. In my
Yeah.
mind, it was like any parent trying to advocate for their child
Right.
should be met halfway.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was my stance.
Yeah.
It was, and it wasn't just our child. The things that we were seeing and and the things that we were hearing were happening.
Yeah.
It was enough to call question 2 and raise eyebrows, like, period.
Yeah.
Because my thing is, when it comes to homeschool, I think any parent who has a desire to and wants to
That's
do that,
good.
any set of parents, any family who wants to do that for their children,
Yeah.
you are absolutely equipped.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you truly have a desire to do that, because most parents who don't have the desire, don't want to, are not going to try or put forth the effort.
Yeah.
Obviously,
Or may
that's
just not have the
different. I'm
time
not
either, right?
talking
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not talking about that. But I think that no matter what, you absolutely have an anointing, and you can serve your child if you need to.
Yeah.
The world found out that push come to shove,
Man. Yeah.
we would pull it together. We would figure some things out. Now, that is not the same as homeschool, and those were not ideal circumstances. So I'm not comparing the two, because it's definitely not that level of stress at all. But it was one of those decisions that I did not make thinking about my credentials. I really did it thinking about my child. And with the 20 years that we have combined in education, and the fact that we have had 3 of our other kids, including her, so 4 kids and ourselves, have all gone through the public school system.
Yeah.
So it wasn't even one of those moments where it was like, anything against the public school system, or we don't think that you can get quality education. Now,
Yeah.
I will say this, we'll get into that conversation a little bit later, because I've learned a lot over the year, and I've given everything I can to this little girl, and my husband and I, we've had lots of conversation.
Yeah.
But
Hasn't been
in that
easy.
moment, it was not that. I don't even think that the specific campus made a difference.
Mhm.
It was
We
in
did have a question
general.
about that too. Yeah.
Yeah, and it really highlight. It served to highlight some things that I had seen over the years in my time in education, that I was so groomed and so brainwashed to ignore, to not pay attention to not prioritize. And I saw it happening. And when I saw it happening, like, up close, I was like, wait, this is really a thing? Like, for example, there was a situation where something very racist was said in class, like literally racist. A child used the N-word against another child. So this is not a hypothetical.
Yeah.
This is literally.
Yeah.
And a non-minority teacher said to the class, well, you guys need to not worry about it. It's not a big deal. If I didn't hear them say it, it's not a big deal. And then the student laughed and like said it again. And all of the students were like, are you kidding me? He literally just said it again. And, she said something else that was incredibly dismissive. One of the little girls got so upset, she cried. Zoe was like, it's one thing for you to say you didn't hear, but it's a whole nother thing to really like pretend that like 8 students would just say that. And he's sitting back here with a smile on his face. Like, that is just utterly ridiculous. And so I sent an email to the teacher, and my email was the kind of email I would have wanted to receive. Hi, Mrs. So-and-so. I'm so-and-so, the parent of so-and-so. I've got some information from my child so-and-so that XYZ happened in your class today. This was the version that they shared. And I just wanted to talk a little bit more with you about that, to see if you can give me some clarity or some insight into this situation. I don't hear a word. So then I send the same email again. I forward it again. I don't hear a word back. Then Zoe gets like a progress report, and it said that Zoe needed to read more. And I'm like, I agree with that. But based on her scores, everything was above average for her grade level, and basically for her grade level. And it was very early on in the school year. And I knew she was an advanced reader, but I was just wondering. And I said, okay, well, when you say that, can you explain a little bit more what you mean when you say she needs to do this more?
Mm-hmm.
Well, she didn't say a word about it, but instead she approached Zoe and was like, your mom emailed me. So Zoe came home and said that. And I said, well, what else did she say? And she said, Zoe's told me she didn't say anything. She just had an attitude. And then I went to my next class and she came to one of my other teachers and asked if I was also giving him attitude. And the teacher said, no, Zoe's great in my class. Like, she's incredibly helpful. And they called her over, and that teacher that she had no issue in either, said to her, Zoe, if you're going to behave well in my class, you need to behave well in this class. And she's like, I'm not sure what she's talking about. And she said, okay, Zoe, you're talking back. I don't like your attitude. And so that teacher, the other teacher whose class she was in, she said, go back to your seat. You need to be more respectful. So Zoe goes back to her seat and she's all confused. And she comes home and she tells me this. And so that's when I realized, I said, there's only one common denominator. I'm communicating with this teacher. She won't respond to me at all. But she mentioned it to my child and then went to another teacher to speak poorly about my child.
Yeah, try to set her up.
Right.
All of that. Yeah.
And Zoe felt so bad and so embarrassed. And so this
Imagine
went
that.
on.
Imagine that.
Right. Yeah.
Imagine your child in a class.
Or you.
Right. Or you in a class
Yeah.
and another teacher.
Yeah.
One of your other teachers come to your class, pull you and your teacher out.
Mm-hmm. You're
to
11.
Put you on the spot to see if you act
poorly
mm-hmm. in that teacher's class, like they feel you do in their class, like that.
Mm-hmm.
That's out of order.
Right. And when Zoe said, what are you talking
First
about?
of all.
And she was like, I don't like that attitude. Yeah, that's what I mean. She's been giving me attitude. And so I followed back up because, again, I'm thinking it's not possible that Zoe's been having an attitude.
But it's a lack of relationship too. And that's a whole nother thing. Go ahead.
Right.
Yeah, because
it was a lack of relationship because Zoe did not feel supported by this teacher. She also named other instances where she felt like she was singling out other students too.
Yeah.
But in this case, I'm really giving this teacher the benefit of the doubt because I feel like, as also an educator, like I feel a sense of loyalty. Right, to this other educator, my fellow educator, and wanting to give her the benefit of the doubt and give her an opportunity to explain, and even this other teacher. And so eventually I go as far as to say, my husband and I, we like to have a parent-teacher conference with not just you, but we like an administrator to be there as well. And then all of a sudden it becomes the administrator doesn't have any time in her schedule. And it went from like not this week to like ever. And then so I'm emailing and calling for an administrator. And my messages are being taken. I'm sending the emails. I have the correct email address, and I'm not getting anything back. Well, when we fast forward to when we go to withdraw Zoe from school, we find out that the administrator that I have been emailing is sitting at the desk beside the young lady who's helping me. Not say a word. I'm sorry, I can't whisper. This is just me being dramatic. She does not say a word. I tell her my name. I tell her what I'm doing. I tell her what child it is. And I'm like, this woman has had 3 emails from me. This teacher has had several emails from me at some point. And we both have unique names. Couture Boston, right. Zoe Boston. Yeah. If you've seen this name, you've heard this name. Right. These are not names that's like, no offense, but like Amanda, Sharon. Couture is a unique name.
Right. Yeah.
So I don't know this until she leaves the office and someone else comes in and asks for this administrator and says the name. I'm like, I know that name. So I'm looking around thinking I'm going to see this administrator appear. And I said, oh no, she was just sitting here, but she had to go run over to lunch duty. What?
Yeah.
So that was that on that. And we proceed to withdraw. So I'll pause there.
No, I mean, this is a lot, right?
Yeah.
But that ultimately put us on a path to homeschool our youngest baby. And we're going to look at some of these questions because there's a couple. Okay. I think this is Danielle Sanders.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And so the first The first one was asking about the district, basically what district it was. But then this is the next one right here. So I'm in the middle of helping a family relocate to this area. And one of the requirements were to be in a really good school district. Yeah. The truth of the matter is this is happening everywhere. My husband works in our school district as a substitute teacher. We have been having conversations about homeschooling. Now, Danielle, first of all, thank you for engaging with us and sharing, your perspective and what you're doing too. And I know that family, it's a big deal to be an insider in the area, right? To really try to see, hey, let us know, because where our children are educated, the schools, that's a big deal to take into consideration. And to your point, as far as like it's happening everywhere, every kid is at risk. Like, it's not about being in a school district or even a school, where you have, because there are some school districts where you have high economic status and you have rich kids, families, and poor kid families, and everybody in between. And all of those students are at risk when you think about it, because for one, it doesn't matter if a kid is, has a lot or doesn't. When they're in those hallways and the things that they deal with, the temptations, the bullying, the mental stressors, and all of these things like that, peer pressure, the testing, all of these things that they're all subject to, no matter what it looks like at home, they're all at risk and need care and need connection and need someone in these schools to be intentional about building relationships with them as we educate them. You know what I mean? And so it is important for us to find schools that can do that, to the best of their ability, because there's no perfect campus. There's no perfect district. Right. There are some that, I know we work with personally that I'm like, they got the big picture, but it's a top down thing from, superintendent all the way down to the paraprofessionals.
And your state matters too.
And your state definitely does matter, So I'll say that. But is there anything you want to say to to this point?
Here's one of the other things that I've done a lot of, or a significant amount of, since we've been here as well, and that is support and help parents advocate for their children in schools across the Dallas Metroplex. And by nature, I'm always curious about districts, and I do something that anybody can do. I do look at TEA, which is the Texas Education Agency. It's TEA.gov, Texas Education Agency, if you're here in Texas. But every state has an education agency website in which you can look at specific districts, you can look at specific campuses, and you can see how they're rated. There are some things I would tell you to look for, which are equity things, such as their population of minority students. If you're a minority, that's going to be important for you, because they usually are the lowest represented, but the highest number of suspensions, expulsions, and special education testing services. Meaning, when I say special education, that is not necessarily a bad thing. If children need additional support for various reasons, because there's a spectrum of that. There are severe and profound educational needs that children have. And then there are some that are just really thrown out all willy-nilly.
Yeah.
And they are more likely, brown students are more likely statistically to be referred to and tested for these things over non-minorities. Usually this is a problem because most of our children are very intelligent.
Right.
They maybe lack relationship with the teacher, and that has a lot to do with the implicit biases that some educators come with regarding our children, period. We're just seeing it across the board, the same way you see it in the workforce, the judicial system, you see it in the education system as well. Yeah. And I'm saying that as someone who started as a student of education to a leader in school districts. And I know that I drank the Kool-Aid.
Mm.
And so now there are specific things that I look for. And what I have found across the board is that there is not one that I can, in good conscience, recommend.
Mm.
There may be one that works for you. And I think it works as long as you don't experience certain things or just not aware that you're experiencing certain things.
Yeah.
That your child or your children are experiencing certain things. And that is the unfortunate part. That is really the unfortunate part. But I think look for things like that. If you see that their student population of brown students, minority students, are the lowest percentage in the buildings, but they tend to have the highest records for behavior. You can also see the demographic of the teachers. These things are disproportionate, and students are written up. I mean, ridiculously. All the time I'm getting parents asking for support with their 5, 6, 7-year-olds. They're like, they want to test my child. They saying that he can't learn in class. She can't learn in class. She can't do this. They can't do that. And, having to walk them through having conversations with educators, because most educators, you don't know if they're new. You don't know if they're certified. That's the other thing to look for. Not just the district. When your child is in a school, asking them, does my child have a certified teacher in the classroom? Because that's the thing now. There's a teacher shortage. There's an educator shortage. Yeah. So there's a specialty shortage. There's an experience shortage as well. You have those that are very, very experienced that are on their way out, and they've done as much as they can do up to a certain point. And you have some that are coming in that are new. So either they lack experience, they lack variety of experience with different types of children, or different demographics. Some of them have alternative certifications, and there's nothing wrong with an alternative certification if you've decided that you are now passionate about being an educator. Mm-hmm. But if it's not your passion and you've just figured, man, I got this degree and I can't do anything with it. They need teachers, so I'll do this quick program and I'll get in there. So they're getting a rushed education themselves, and then they're coming in with students that have real needs academically from a culture of students that are already grossly behind academically, and that is who your child's in front of. And you may never know that because they don't actually have to tell you. So those are things you have to ask. So hopefully some of those questions will point you to even just having a conversation. At the high school level, none of your child's teachers should not be certified. At middle school, they should not be uncertified.
In a public school.
And there are public charters and charter schools that people like because sometimes they're smaller. They don't require that you are certified.
There too,
that might be a question that you ask because I would prefer to have a certified teacher. But nowadays, given the certification programs to become a teacher, if I could, I would speak at colleges at this point to education programs because I want to talk to them for real. I want to have a real conversation. I want educators to really be prepared.
For sure.
That is what I would want to do because I know that the school. So I don't want to get too far ahead, but that is
good. You're good. This is your
look. It's hard when you
I know.
Look,
I know
when you know so much about something. I have always wanted. We have always wanted for your children what we wanted for ours. And there are so many things that once you know, you just can't unknow. There are some things that once you have seen, you cannot unsee. Right. And we pride ourselves and live our lives on integrity. Once you know better, you do better. So and true. Again, this is not to slight or downplay any educators. We love educators. We are educators. We are absolutely for you. But we also know that there is a place of denial that I have lived in as an educator, that now that I am not formally or officially employed, I don't have to bite my tongue anymore. I can say exactly what I know to be true and help as many families and people as I can.
So thank you, Boo. Mm-hmm. So what's a good way? So, and we're going to talk about why we are homeschooling our daughter. Mm-hmm. Of course, we shared, the main thing that kind of like you say, the final straw. That kind of gave us to say, hey, it's time. You know what I mean? It's time. That inspired us to do this. But what would you say to some parents, guardians out there that, you know, of course, maybe just their schedule, maybe they just feel like homeschooling is not necessarily for me, but I definitely want to be there for my student, right? For my kid. How important is advocacy, or how does that, like, how can parents go about taking care of those kind of things when they see a need, when they know that their kid is struggling some kind of way, or, you know, what does that look like to say, I know my son, my daughter is struggling in this school. I'm getting these reports. I'm getting questions asked. What is some things to, you know, one, I know this is a lot, but one thing to kind of say, okay, this is something I probably need to lean into.
Yeah.
As a concern, and how do they go about that? Like, what can help? How can they be a better advocate, or advocate better? You know.
No, you said.
Hopefully that makes sense. I'm trying.
No, both ways you said it. You said it correctly. Advocating is key, but you said something powerful. You said, "What should they do when they know?" And my concern is, I don't want you to leave. If you're watching now and you have kids or grandkids in school and nieces and nephews, I don't want you to leave not knowing, because you don't know what you don't know. That's the thing. That's how a lot of this has been allowed to go on for so long, is because we don't know what we do not know. And so there are questions that we have to begin to be more proactive about as parents. If you are a parent who is saying, my schedule, I'm not able to prioritize that in my schedule. I'm not the best fit for this at this time, whatever the circumstances may be, no judgment here. Okay. There are questions you need to ask. One is the certification status of your children's teachers. All of them. You need to know that.
Right.
Also, in the beginning of the school year, it is very important that even if you can't make the open house, which we encourage you to go meet the teachers
that's key.
At the elementary, middle school, and high school level.
Be looking for those dates.
Yes. There have been times where, like, they didn't give a date and then they randomly had one. And it was like, how do we miss this?
Right. Yeah.
You know, and so we've hated that. But we've also had to make a point to reach out to these teachers via email and say, you know, we're the parents of so-and-so. They have you for this class, this period. Our child is XYZ. Here's how you can reach us should you ever need us. But also being prepared with questions too. When things come up, like, for example, your child gets a grade on something and you're like, why'd you get a 47 on this? I'm like, I don't know. That is when you turn your child back around and you send them back up to the school and you're asking them, you're teaching them how to have conversations with teachers about why they receive certain grades. I know our oldest son, Aaron, he used to bring home progress reports and want us to sign them. And if there was a grade that we didn't think was up to par for his capacity or capability, we would say, well, if you don't know, neither do we. It's your class. It's your learning experience. It's your teacher. You know, you need to go back and ask them before we're willing to sign this. And so I think even teaching your kids how to advocate too and ask questions. Sometimes kids will just be so embarrassed learning about a score that they got. They'll either ball it up, or if it's if it's on the computer, they'll just close the Chromebook down. They just won't say anything because they don't know. And then the teacher will move on. They'll never know what they got wrong, why they got certain things wrong. And then there's no help for them either. So that when it comes up again for a major grade and they fail that and run the risk of failing the entire school year on some major grades, everybody is scratching their heads. So I think as parents, just being aware, like having your kids talk to you, making sure the school has accurate information on how to reach you, contact info, like your phone number, your emails. So I think that's the first way to start, making sure there are open lines of communication between you and your kids' educators, but definitely make sure that they are actually certified. And I think that's probably the biggest thing, because I mean, at one point they were putting long-term subs. Now, let me tell you what a sub is. And no disrespect, but subs know, if you're on here and you're a sub, you already know what it is.
I think Danielle, her husband,
a sub is someone, right? A sub is someone that has a college degree and passes the background check. you might qualify to be a sub at a school if you can pass the criminal background check and you have a degree in any major. So when your child's teacher is out for an extended period of time and your student ends up with an extended long-term sub, be aware that they may have no training in professional pedagogy. They may have no training in that content area. They may not even still have enough notes for that. Like emergencies come up and teachers are out, and instead of putting other certified teachers in, sometimes they'll let the short-term sub become a long-term sub, pay them a few dollars more and say, hey, you've already been here. Why don't you stay and help us out? And then that becomes the circumstance. That becomes the circumstances.
That's true. But there are some districts too that you do have to have a certification to be a long-term sub. Some places, but I know recently,
never in mind, and not here in Dallas.
With COVID, that changed because there was a drop-off, in teachers, and so they were, I know that has shifted as well to the need for more educators in that aspect. But I think what you're saying too, and not to cut you off, but
no, you're doing good.
Kind of lean into this part too, because it's really about the communication and being visible too, like knowing what's happening at your kids' school, like knowing what's going on in their lives and being visible, with the communication aspect, making sure that they know that you're involved in your student's life. You know what I mean? When they send an email, respond to the emails,
right?
Be on top of that stuff, because that stuff matters. I know, my time in the school is so important, and it's a blessing when parents communicate, right? Because educators, they can only do so much, and some of them break their neck for our students. Some of these teachers, these educators do the best that they can, for our students. You know what I mean? So shout out to all the teachers, educators out there, even administrators that are doing everything that they can to be there for our students, but sometimes hands are tied, situations and circumstances don't afford that. And it's sad, but it happens. But we can also, as parents, be involved as much as we can, be present, be intentional, communicate.
Especially the
like
communication,
that's important,
because advocation is not just about protecting your child's interests.
Right.
It is also you showing support.
Yeah.
Teachers have to be able to reach you.
Yeah.
They need to be able to communicate with you. Right. But you also need to be able to communicate with them.
Right.
And so my point with the sub is that schools may not always tell you that is the case, but when that report card is due, if your child has a certain grade and you don't know why they have it, and they've had a long-term sub, and that sub is not prepared or equipped to teach that content, and your child's having a hard time learning it because they're having a hard time teaching it, and now this is their grade, that permanently impacts your child. For lack of communication, for lack of not knowing. And that is me tying a bow on. Sometimes you don't know what you don't know, which is why you have to be in a position of communication so that you can be asking questions, be in the know, and have those lines, kind of reciprocated. You communicate with them, they communicate with you, and knowing, like, communicating with with your child's teacher should be your first line. And then after that, administration. Don't jump over their head and go straight to administration. But what is happening with your child in their class, that needs to be something that you are aware of. You should know. Most educators I've seen, like especially with Zion, no, he doesn't love his school. We don't love his school either. I wish we could fast track him straight on out of it, but he's a football player. But I know most of his teachers do send emails. We respond to all of them. If I have to respond specifically, I'm sure to CC my husband on it to make sure that he is also a part of the correspondence and he is seeing. We've done this before with our kids, where we'll even CC our kids on a correspondence that we're sending to a teacher, so that it looks like, this is a community partnership. Everybody needs to know what's happening and what's being said. But a lot of times, it's hard for parents to advocate when they just don't know, when those communication lines aren't there and they don't have this information. You don't even know what to check on. And kids are not always, explaining things or sharing things at that level because they may not think it's a big deal.
Yeah, that's true. That's
Yeah.
true. Yeah, our kids are so resilient in the fact
Mhm.
where some things
And
just.
they like subs too. They think
Oh yeah,
sometimes
I
they think they
mean,
can do what they want. So
how
they're
y'all feel about sub when you were in school? You know what I mean? The
yeah,
substitutes
sub
come
was a
through.
play day for us.
Man,
You know?
yeah, we ain't got to do too much today.
Yes. And teachers
Um,
did that intentionally. They didn't want to make it too content heavy.
Yeah,
But I mean, and subs are not a problem, but it's the long terms, like your teachers being out. Like we just recently found out that our child's teacher for one of his courses was overbooked. So they have a non-certified, non-degreed for this subject. And let me just put this out there. It's the Spanish class. It's the non-Spanish speaking teacher assistant that is uncertified teaching the class. That is something we're having to navigate right now. And we're like, what are y'all doing? You actually want to give my child a grade. Forget giving him a grade. Forget giving him a passing grade. I don't need to, we're not trying to bully anybody into giving him an A or a B. Is he even learning Spanish?
Right, that's the key, yeah.
If his full-time Spanish teacher is not able to speak or teach or read Spanish like that, it's insane.
Yeah.
And what I'm saying is, with all the information that we have, if these are still things that we encounter and that we pick up on and notice,
So
just
much.
can't.
Yeah.
It's so much. It's so much more.
Yeah.
And even when I was an assistant principal on one of the toughest middle schools in our city, we were turning this school around and kids just needed an opportunity, like for real, I'm not just saying that. They just needed somebody to see them. And I mean this, we decreased cursing, fighting, drug use, everything, on all levels at this campus. It just took a different shift. It took a different season. But even talking to parents then, I would get so many parents that would tell me, thank you for explaining this to me. Thank you for helping me understand, like, well, I wish you were leading. I wish you were staying at this campus because, we need somebody that's going to talk to us we need somebody who's going to communicate with us. Like, we don't understand everything. And you help us in these meetings. You help us when we're sitting in an annual review and dismissal meeting for our child that has special needs. Like, we need this. We don't know how to talk the language. We don't understand everything that's being said. And again, this is what's so unfortunate, because when you don't know what you don't know, it does really make it hard for you to advocate, support. And usually the default is just silence. Long as my kids pass. And it's like, pass what? Pass along, learn, understand, pass the test. Those are just questions. So I think just prioritizing that. What do you really want your student to get out of their educational experience? You may not get all of it, but just identify, what is it that you want? It's going to take a level of communication. And for any family, for any parent, the least you can do is that. And if you don't have to know all the educational language and, things that they say. I'm trying not to use too much educational jargon even now, but you don't have to know all of that. You can ask as many questions as you want, and you should.
Yeah.
That's my point.
That's good. That's good. Thank you for that.
Mm-hmm.
Miss Diane said this a little bit earlier. We were sharing about our story with Zoe.
Yes.
So sorry that this happened to your family, but so glad to see that you have exercised your options. They believe that we don't have choices, and we generally won't try other avenues. That's true.
100%.
That's true. And it can be scary.
Yes,
like
it is.
when you literally have your own children's education in your hands. And I think that and we've seen a lot of parents, especially during 2020 and all those things, like we've seen parents, panic. They're like, I don't know what I'm doing, what I need to do, But I think, and you said this earlier, I think we really found out how strong we are, really found out how we can, like what we're really made of. Not just us, I'm saying in general, like anyone who had to, who had to lock in and take care of their children and say, well, let me set a place for you to be educated. Let me do what I can to support and help you in that way. But understanding that, we do have options. And I thank God that we had the opportunity and the, our lifestyle affords us to be able to do this as far as the time and being able to, be there for our daughter, for her to be at home with us and move around with us. But there are other avenues. And sometimes, like Miss Diane said, it is hard for us to try these other avenues because either we're unfamiliar with them or we're not sure if we have what it takes. But I think if it's,
I didn't know.
Yeah.
I wasn't certain. No, I was certain that she needed to come home. I wasn't certain of what I needed to do after the withdrawal. Like I had done a little bit of research because the kids were out of school, and we decided once it started back up, we were gonna march ourselves right on back up there and do what we had decided we were gonna do. But I literally leaned on a community of parents, some former teachers, most of them not. I got on Facebook. I found groups. I talked to one of my friends who had homeschooled for years, her daughters. She gave me websites and different things to look at. And the more I looked at this, I was like, wait a minute. I know this. I can do this. Wait a minute. And I said, we're going to, and we had a conversation with Zoe. I said to her, we're going to take it one day at a time. Yeah.
Because before we lean into that, like this was not easy for her. All right. Because this wasn't just like she just going along with what we're wanting to do. You know what I mean? So that's a whole nother dynamic, no, she's a social butterfly, right? Academics, that's not a thing. She is smart as a whip, right? She cold when it comes to that. But socially, she is the leader of the pack. She is the life of the party. Her name literally means that, life. You know what I mean? And so to move her to take her out of that, it was tough. You know what I'm saying? And even for me, like person, and I've shared this with you too, like she 6th grade, middle school, she's our last one. We already put 3 more, three through middle school, and you're right. 2 through high school, 1 still on the way out. But for her, I was looking forward to 7th grade, basketball and track sports and all those things like that. And other little things that come with school, middle school, right? Her experiencing those things and me experiencing those things with her as her father, showing up in places, to be there for her and support her. So for me, it was low key a grieving process too, like thinking about that, but I still wanted what was best for her. And I knew that we could give that to her. And I also was feeling sensitive in a way where, before all of this happened, I felt like, man, I want to connect more with my daughter. Like I just felt like it was just, I didn't really have enough time with her because, they're in school all day, we're working and serving, doing what we do. And by the time they come home, it's just a hustle and bustle of that. And I think at those years, the 10 and 11-year-old years for me, I felt like I was needing more.
Pour into her.
Yeah, I was needing more for her from me. And I felt like she was getting too much of other things and not enough of what dad could pour into it. Because I'm of course I'm an active parent. I'm an active dad. Like that's not a thing. But I just was feeling real sensitive spiritually. Like, man, there's something. My daughter needs something. She needs more of me. And so I didn't really know what that looked like. And as this came, to be, like, it was kind of in that way, like, I know this is something that I need as well, me and her, in our relationship. And so that was a plus side, but it was not easy for her. Me, I was asking you, like, look, if you got this, like, if you're not doing it by yourself, but like, if where we need to start, I'm down. You know what I'm saying? Like, I was at full confidence. Like when she said, yeah, I'm like, cool, let's pull the trigger. I'm all in, through 6th grade. And then to your point, told Zoe, we got to take it one year at a time, one day at a time. Right now, we're not thinking about 7th grade. I don't know if you're going to go back. We don't know if you're going to stay at that time. It's we're just going to finish out 6th grade strong and do what we do right now. And we're not going to worry about that, because her little mind was like, what am I going to do? You know, and trying to help encourage her and keep her, you know, keep her encouraged the best we could, you know, and
Right.
that may not have fully happened during that time.
We couldn't encourage her as much as we felt like we were.
Right.
The intention was there, but the impact wasn't. But what was impactful was allowing her to hold space to share her emotions.
Mm.
So there were times,
For
right?
sure, yeah.
There were times where it would seem random, but something would just hit her. And she's like, I don't want to do homeschool.
Yeah, no.
I miss being at school with my friends. And I'm like,
It was a
and
grieving
in
process.
our mind, we're like, these friends that were talking crazy, acting crazy, you know, just being kids, but like a lot of influence that we didn't want to be a part of her life, things that we were seeing coming out of her when she would come home. We knew where it was coming from because it wasn't coming from inside, you know. So a lot of things do come from the home and they take it out to school, but these were things that she was bringing in. And in those moments, we couldn't say that. We couldn't say that. We had to actually allow her to hold some emotional space and vent and grieve the difference, because most kids in elementary, that is a milestone. Middle school is a milestone that they look forward to.
Yeah.
And for her to have had such a tumultuous first like 5
her
months,
first day, didn't she? They let her on the bus
and then wouldn't bring her home.
And she had to ride back home with the
police
officer, SRO. Yeah,
school.
with the school police officer. Her first day of school, 6th grade.
I was like, why did they do that? So I was mad about that.
They let her on the bus and wouldn't let her come back.
And guess what? The bus stop, this is gonna get y'all. The bus stop is our house.
Our house is the bus stop.
Every kid that was going to that middle school around this area was getting on at our house. Standing in our grass, leaning on our tree.
Right.
Our daughter got on the bus
at
our house. It took her to school. And then at the end of the day, they're like, oh, we don't see your name on this list. Yeah. We're like, how you let her on the bus? So I'm thinking she's coming home. Her big sister, who's in college, is at home. So she's going to meet her when she gets off the bus, because all she got to do is open the door. Yeah. She going to hear a little the brakes on the bus, and she going to let the baby in the house.
And I was working out of town that week. I think
he was out of town. I was driving. I was all the way across town, driving to the airport to go get him because his flight was about to land. And so I'm like, I'm an hour away. I can't even. We live 7 minutes from the school. Right. I'm an hour away.
Yeah.
So that happened to her on her first day. Like that was a whole sign right there, like right off.
Like looking back, right?
Looking back at it,
it's a few things.
But there were many things along the way that, in my mind, like we're given this, we're like benefit of the doubt. Now our son Zion went there too, and he was like, I could already have told y'all. But we're like, okay, Zion, take it easy. Don't ruin this for your sister. But it was things like that.
And he want to be homeschooled. If it wasn't for football.
Absolutely.
If it wasn't for football.
And he was another one of our kids who really thrived, learning virtually as well. But anyway, there was moments where we had to let her hold space for sharing her thoughts, sharing her feelings, and getting it out. And moments. Even now, yes. And now, but she's
different.
It's different because here's some of the things. Initially, we didn't jump her right in to like, okay, this is your first day not being in school. We're going to jump right into homeschool. We didn't do that. I actually told Keisha, I said, we have to give her a moment. This was a term I had heard on YouTube, and I watched a couple moms talk about it. Parents who didn't start homeschooling, but like had brought their kids home like we did. After having been exposed to public or private, whatever, school outside. And it was a term called unschooling, which they had to bring them home and kind of like let them get used to not having the normal, like the school norms.
Yeah.
And so this was me letting her sleep a little bit later.
That's good.
Us having breakfast together and talking about what we were going to do first, starting devotionals together, starting our day slowly, and then getting into what do you want to learn today? I mean, it was such a dance. And she's like, I don't know. You know, she was used to being told. So there was a
start
season where
rushing,
she didn't even know what she wanted. I'm like, well, what do you like? I don't know. What do you think about? I don't know. Everything was like, I don't know. She was asking me to use the restroom. She was asking me when she could have lunch. And those were things that we had to kind of shed before we could go forward. And having to tell her, baby, you don't have to ask me to use the restroom. You can, when you have to go, you may go.
Yeah.
Lunch is when you're hungry. And I know that's not feasible in the public school. I'm not saying that, but it was something like, this is really going to be interesting for her to realize that she actually has a little bit of autonomy. So then when I got her into her subjects and I had a program for her, we had a combination of watching videos, watching YouTube, learning, watching science videos, reading chapter books together. She would read to me. I would read to her. She would tell me about the chapters. Like we did all
biblical
that.
studies.
Biblical studies. We would talk about the Bible and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
Just
really
getting
cool.
her to like loosen up and kind of get into the flow of like, what do you want to do first? It's like, I don't know. I'm like, okay, let me. And then I realized, I'm like, okay, I have to almost tell her, but I'm still going to give her some choices. So I had to say, do you want to do devotion first? Or do you want to have breakfast? Or do you want to have breakfast? Or do you want to have devotion? Like her mind, it was just like a reshaping of the mind.
Yeah.
And I realized that I was so good. She was so much like me in school. We were rule followers. We just did whatever we were told. We never had to think or speak up for ourselves. And she's from a different generation where she was definitely comfortable speaking a little bit more. But when it came to thinking about what she wanted, what she needed, that was a little bit different for her. And so after we got over that, we found ourselves a nice little flow. And the more I started, I think we started understanding her, like seeing her personality coming through, how funny she was, how articulate, just witty, and seeing how much she really was advancing and growing. Like she still knocks out the schoolwork. Guys, look, it don't take her long.
Yeah.
I show him every week. I make myself accountable to him. I show him her progress. She's in 7th grade. She does a lot of I have her mostly doing 8th grade math. She does a little bit of algebra too. I've sprinkled in like a little bit of advanced 8th grade, a little bit of 9th grade stuff, just kind of seeing. And most of the time she doesn't even know. And there have been times when she's like, I'm going to be behind. I don't know. And I have to show her like, actually, you are ahead.
Right. Yeah.
You are ahead. And by now in school, because we're under in the state of Texas, she doesn't have to do standardized testing as a homeschool student. So she's actually able to continue learning new content as much as she wants, instead of us practicing to get ready for the testing season, which again, if students are in school and that's what they have to do, there are some things you need to do. Parents, make sure they get rest, make sure they get good night's sleep, and they're eating breakfast. Don't fuss at them before they leave the house. Let them, different things like that, because it can be very stressful. It's a lot. It's a lot. And so, while I think she's probably my favorite student I've ever had in my entire life, I think she is a dream. I also respect that she has feelings and she has thoughts. Yeah. And when she needs to share them with me, we let her. I let her share them with me specifically, because usually like I'm getting the brunt of that. If I say something that hurts her feelings or I'm too harsh, she mentioned something to me that I said the other day that I said probably early on. I don't remember saying it, but I believe her. I said to her, Mommy is sorry. If I said that to you and it hurt your feelings, I can understand how that would have hurt your feelings. And I did not mean to hurt you. The last thing I want to do is hurt you. And I'm so sorry. Yeah. And it seemed to do some good for her because she knew I was being sincere. So it's a dance that we've been working together, but it's my heart to see her become the woman that she is supposed to be. And I just know that in this season of our life and hers, we are the best thing for her. Yeah. And the education that we're exposing her to, it's not school, but it's education. And education and school are not synonymous.
That's true.
School is a place where education can happen, but it's not the only place it can happen. And that's what we're learning. And because I don't want to discourage anyone whose families are in public school, because our nieces and nephews are in public school.
Yeah. I have my nephew.
You know, like
he's about
we're
to
not
graduate now.
yeah.
Soon.
And we have some that's not graduating
he's
soon.
15.
They just started.
He's about to be 16.
Oh, he's homeschooled.
Yeah, he's homeschooled and getting ready to graduate.
Yeah. And so we have some that are still graduating. We have that are in high school or beyond. And we have some that are still, you know, they're starting their educational journey. And if our sister and brothers ever, you know, ask us or want to know, you know, sure. What kind of support we can offer them, we're happy to give that to anybody. But this was our personal decision. So this was certainly not a dig against public education, but it was definitely a proactive decision that we made for our baby. You sheepy. Yeah. He done sat up here and ate about 6 donuts and a couple
great.
No, because normally you have coffee over there and you had your donuts and your snack cakes over there. You got the itis.
Yeah, it's that fried chicken.
You should have some fried chicken.
No, but thinking about this is good. I'm glad that we're talking about this.
Yeah.
I won't say that I never thought we would, but I mean, I guess I never, you know, I didn't see us homeschooling.
I didn't see
like,
us
I know we've talked about it a few times. Yeah, you know what I'm saying?
I've talked about it a lot. Like with every kid, I've always had like this itch, like I wish we could homeschool.
Yeah.
But we were so like we were working
we were
from 6 to 7 p.m.
like
in the school system.
Yeah. We would have not, like 5 years ago, 6 years ago, we wouldn't have not been able to do this. You know what I mean?
Wouldn't have been a thought.
For sure. You know, I had 3 kids. That would have been at least 3.
Yeah.
But yeah, so just a couple of things before we close. I want to talk about, like, kind of really answer that question. It's like, why we homeschool, you know, and I think we kind of spoke to a lot at first off top. One of the reasons why.
Yeah, I gave my reason.
You know, but also I like the fact that when it comes to growth for our daughter, like we really have, there's so much intentionality in how we want her to grow and how we educate her, how we prune, how we provide, how we present, how we expose, what we expose her to.
Yes.
And I think over this last year, you know, I know she's grown a lot.
Yes.
You know what I mean? More than what she realizes. I don't. She didn't even realize. Like, because, you know, I mean, she was a professional student. Like, for the first 5 years, 6 years of her life, you know, she was a professional student. Knew how to go to school and get in lines with bubbles and tails. You know, doing everything that is asked of her. You know, from assignments to whatever, you know, the teacher set up, right? Which is fine. Like I get that, you know, that structure. And so for her to have to come out of that is one thing, right? Like you said, I mean, she was still asking, you know, can you use the bathroom? Can I, you know, do all these things at home? You know, we don't see kids, you know, I've seen a couple, but you don't go through the grocery store and seeing kids walking in lines behind their parents. You know what I mean?
Or with the bubble,
with a bubble in their mouth.
You might wish some of them did.
Right. We don't see that. Like, it's not a real life scenario. Like, it's not a real life thing, you know? And so at school, they're having to be taught these things for, you know, that structure, I guess, that they need on those campuses. But
let's just call it what it is. It's order and control. It's literally,
it definitely is. It's command and control. It's command and control.
All it is. Like walking with your hands behind your back. I mean, the only other place you see that is with inmates in the juvenile and the adult system. No, seriously, that is literally where it came from. You should not speak unless you're spoken.
And you don't have to
bubble in your mouth and put your hands behind your back. Why are we training them to walk with their hands behind their back?
I've led students through hallways in middle schools and high school. I was an in-school suspension director for a few years.
Yes.
And having to move certain students, when they honor and respect you, and you have a respect for them and a relationship with them, you don't
Sure.
have to do. It ain't about control. You know what I'm saying?
It's about a mutual respect.
It really is.
We're gonna walk side by side,
right?
from
So
point A to point B.
yeah, so definitely I've seen it not have to do that. Of course, it looks uniform, it looks good when you think about it. Like, but anyway, aside from all of that, seeing her growth, seeing where she is now, as opposed to where I feel like she would have been. I know for a fact she wouldn't be where she is now, mentally, spiritually, I think even emotionally, because there's so much stuff that happens, so many things that our students go through in a day in person that they have to deal with authority figures commanding and controlling them. They have to deal with other students, their mess and their messiness, right? There is some good stuff in there, but then having to hear crazy stuff, to see crazy stuff, to be exposed to things. There's so much clutter. There's so much clutter that this has allowed us to, pull her out of that. She still has a social life. Most of her friends are at church,
and
right?
she's not an only child.
She's
either.
not an only child.
She's in a family of,
right.
She comes from a family of 6.
Yep. She still has her play dates and things like that, where she gets to go spend time with her friends and go to the mall and
have guests over.
So, when it comes to that, like, there's really, I don't feel like she's missing out on that, but we've really been able to have some potency when it comes to her development, comes to her growth and what we pour into her,
right.
and not have to worry about so many seeds being sown on rocky mentalities, on a rocky mentality. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It's like when we give the seed and when we plant sow those seeds, more of them are germinating and taking root, germinating and taking root. And so that's been good, like seeing the growth, and being able to really help mold her in that way, in a more intentional way,
I like that too, because school has changed so much since our other kids were her age, like our 2 older kids, and they have their stories and stuff too. And trust me, we both worked in middle schools. We know, and we've been to middle school, so right, we know some of that is kind of to be expected. For that typical kind of environment. But just the fact that we've been able to manage that a little bit better with the changing of the times, and know that this is what was best for her. And then to see that growth. So I agree with you 100%. That's the only thing I was going to add to that.
No,
I love that.
That's what's up. That's what's up. Another thing is flexibility, like the flexibility that we have, but that she has. She's been able to travel with us, and all of these trips and these things like this they are a part of her education.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, we're able to, the exposure that she gets.
Taking her to conferences, social environments.
Right.
Visiting other churches. I mean, when we travel and doing all of that, it's been a lot, like eating food in different places, trying things she hasn't tried, navigating the airport with us and us explaining to her like how this, how things work. Those were things. And it's not that you can't do those things in any situation, but we're saying that the flexibility has allowed us to do just one of those things, which is like traveling. But a lot of the things that I know that she'll need coming in, because she's a 21st century learner, and wanting to prepare her for a 21st century world, we get to talk about like really how to use social media appropriately, using technology, using devices. She's using computers. She knows how to use cameras. She's knows how to make videos and intros. When we traveled, she made a video about, her experience, reading more and having time. Like, it was amazing how we could spending a day with her and hearing her talk about that for 30 minutes and putting together like a 30-something minute video and then having to cut it because she was like, I needed to be able to be sendable, but being able to take in so much from a day Whereas before, when she was in school, she could tell us in 2 minutes what she learned. And most days, she really could not recall. And I knew she was not lying. She honestly could not recall, but she had all the tea. She knew everything else that was going on.
Yeah,
Like
man.
between
Yeah.
the bus ride to school, the bus ride home, what happened at gym, what happened in the
Oh, my
lunchroom,
goodness.
who was fighting who's dating who's liking who,
Right.
the drama with
Fighting
teachers,
who, yeah.
with teachers don't get along. Like she had, I mean, and we would listen to these because we've always believed in engaging our kids, you know, after their day and really listening to them and finding out. And so whatever they wanted to talk about, whatever they wanted to share,
Yeah.
that is what we let them share. But it was not lost on us that it's like, we're talking and listening for 30 minutes and asking her follow-up questions about everything else
Yeah.
because there wasn't enough information to take away from like what was actually, you know, kind of being learned. And now I feel like if she does something in a day, if she does something in math, I can tell her, go tell your dad what skill you learned.
Mm-hmm.
You're doing exponents today, or you're doing algebraic equations today. She can explain that because that's the only thing she had to focus on for that amount of time. And we talk about it, and she's using scratch paper, and she's allowed to use a calculator. She can watch videos. She can use mental math. Like I don't have a problem with any, like she can use every resource available to her.
Yeah.
To help her to learn and really engage in what she's doing.
Yeah.
And I don't have to give her 1,000 things to do in a day. I can say literally today, I want you to read a chapter of this book, and then we're going to talk about it. We're going to watch this devotion online, or we're going to read this. We're going to read this chapter of the Bible app out loud, and we're going to talk about it. You know, whatever the case may be, we're going to do this much math. And when you get done, you're done. And then you're going to help me cook dinner. Like this week, she helped me clean chicken. She was thawing out meat. She helps me make the grocery list. She helps me prepare menus. Like all the things I just wouldn't imagine, like teaching her how to use an industrial printer at the job, how to put hole punches and staplers and stuff, printing front and back, just exposing her.
Yeah, I taught
her,
their classic lesson of changing a tire and what that looks like. You know what I mean?
You had her doing keyboard. She's learning music.
Oh yeah, keyboard, and trying to get her on this bass guitar. We'll see.
She might be down.
But we're able to we have the flexibility to be able to tailor her education to her needs, her learning styles.
And now the things that she likes.
Yeah, her interests. Yeah, yeah. You know, because she's still discovering those things and being able to lean in on that. That's one of the things I was sharing with the students today. Like, you know,
the students where
at church. So yeah, so it's at Firehouse North. Holla at y'all, boy. God bless you. No, but just really letting them know that let them know that you don't have to wait till later in life to pursue what you're passionate about.
Right.
You know what I mean? There's so many of us that the things that we're passionate about, we felt like this since we were younger. We felt like this our whole life. Like this has always been a passion of mine, whether it's painting or music or poetry or just, you know, encouraging people, like always wanting to be there for someone, you know, and your passion will lead to your purpose. Like passion leads to purpose.
That's so good.
And so if we wait on those things, like that kind of stuff is
there's some time loss for sure.
Definitely. Right? Yeah. You know,
definitely some time loss there that you could really be capitalizing on your development. Because here's the thing too. I asked Keedron this question the other day. If y'all have more questions, feel free to ask. We're just going to keep moving.
Yeah.
And I know you have another point for us to share. But I asked Keedron the other day, I said, what thing besides school would it be acceptable for you to do for 12 or 13 years, year after year after year after year, and still be unqualified to enter the workforce and make a living for yourself and a family besides school? What other place would you be not considered experienced or an expert or a master at something? That's a lot of time.
Yeah.
That's a lot of time to like be a master or an expert at nothing. Nothing.
Yikes.
That just hit. That just hit.
Yeah, that
different.
that do. Yeah. Yeah. And I know that, just to not to push back all the way on that, but I know that developmentally, it's one thing. You
Mhm.
start at 4 or 5 years old,
Mhm.
where you're learning some basics of life, you're learning
Mhm.
social skills.
Mhm.
There are things I think that we do get from education in that way. Like there's some things that may, there are some intentional things, and there are some things that, are not necessarily like they come with the territory. You know what I
Sure,
mean?
sure.
And so throughout that time, developmentally and relationally, socially, like to
Mhm.
really help develop in that way. But I mean,
Yeah.
you do have a point. Like it does come to a point where it's like, okay, how is this really
Mhm.
preparing me for life? How is this preparing me for the real world? Because I know that there are some places, some countries where you're not wasting time in that way. Like we're equipping you to where by the
Mhm.
time you get to this age, you are
Mhm.
fully equipped for
Yeah.
for life. You know what I'm saying? Well, I would say fully equipped, but you are well equipped to start your
To move
next.
forward.
Yeah,
That's why I love that you asked the students in Firehouse the question and challenged them and gave them the power of permission to think about
yeah,
what are you passionate about, because you don't have to wait. Because if you're waiting, what are you waiting
what are you waiting
for?
for? Yeah,
What are you waiting for?
right. Yeah, is it resources? Is it
Because
permission? Is
yeah,
it
you need to
yeah,
know that,
yeah,
because one could assume, like, I went to school to become a teacher,
hmm
but one could assume that by the time I was 18, I was reading fluently at 4 years old. Thank you to my aunties and my family. But I was reading fluently and speaking fluently at 4 years old, and spent almost 13 years in school.
yeah.
That alone may have qualified me to be a teacher,
Hmm. There is a young lady that's
because I literally went back to college and took
yeah.
my same junior and senior year
Hmm.
all over again. My first 2 years of college, except I had to pay.
Hmm. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
literally had to go. Kedron, I kid you not. I was in
Uh-huh.
Spanish 3.
Yeah.
That was the only class I got out of in college. I only had to take one semester of Spanish because I had taken all the way up to Spanish 3 in high school. But I had to take History 1, History 2,
Yeah.
English 1, English 2, Algebra 1, Algebra 2, teaching algebra. I had to take everything all over again.
Yeah. Yes.
Everything all over again. It did not matter. And so did you.
Yeah.
And you graduated at the top 10% of our class.
Yeah.
And you literally went back to college and took them again.
Yeah.
Like,
Started off.
oh, who cares that you got all A's? Who cares that you got 103 in calculus, Kedron Boston? You get to take college algebra. This man just got 103 in calculus. High school calculus,
Oh, geometry.
geometry.
Yeah.
It's not a different geometry. Geometry is geometry. Algebra is algebra.
Yeah. Yeah.
2 plus 2 in first grade is the same 2 plus 2 when you're solving an algebraic equation
Mm.
as a high school student or a middle school student.
Mm.
Same algorithm. It's literally the same. And so, yeah, why wait?
Yeah.
Just helping them discover what they really need to know now, because the things that our oldest child needed to know in order to move out of our home, he didn't learn in school.
Yeah.
He didn't learn how to open a bank account. That was his dad. He didn't learn how to get an apartment, sign a lease,
Mm.
sign a contract, read and understand the
Yeah,
contract.
read that thing. Yeah.
They didn't teach them how to enroll in college. We did that.
Right.
We went on that tour and filled out that paperwork. We're not talking about the field trip. We went, sat in orientation and helped fill out paperwork and getting on the phone with financial aid and going to the
Walking through all that
website,
stuff. Yeah.
writing the essays, the entries, the applications,
Yeah.
the fees,
Walking them through all of that. Yeah.
all of that. That is what he needed right after high school. And he had not a single tool from school to do it. He had his parents. Now, how is that fair to a student that maybe doesn't have that kind of support, but they still did their time?
Mhm.
They still put in their 12, 13 years or got a GED. They still satisfied that time, because even if you get a GED, say they had a rough time the last couple of years of high school, they still did at least 8 to 10 years before that. And so to leave after that and still the most important things that they need, they don't have.
Yeah. That's why it's important,
Talk to your kids now.
Yeah, wherever we are, wherever you're at.
Yeah. Talk to
To
your
just
babies.
give them those what you call it, the intangibles.
Yes.
Right. The things that they're not going to get at
Yes.
school, the things that they're not going to receive anywhere
Yeah.
else, unless there's somebody that's going to be intentional about pouring into
Right.
them. You know what I mean? But it's important for us to equip our
Yeah.
children best we can
Yeah.
to do what nobody else will,
Right. And we're not even
and so it's not even, it's definitely like, it definitely
should.
starts at home. It definitely
Yeah.
starts at home. But wherever you are, to just do the best you can to make sure that they have what they need. And I believe that that's happening, but I think not to be, a discouragement at all, you know what I mean? Because
Sure.
you can only do what you can do.
Right.
But
We're just saying you're gonna
there's
have to
so
fill in the
much-
gaps. You're definitely gonna have to fill in the
yeah,
gaps,
there
because
are
that's what we
resources.
didn't
And,
know.
yeah.
We did not expect,
Exactly.
we didn't expect that. But also our kids didn't expect
Yeah.
to feel so nervous and so ill-equipped. And it just wasn't always a thought, like in 9th and 10th grade.
Yeah.
Practicing those things, and a lot of it had to do with this. They were just gone so long. So we're not even saying it's the role of the school, but it could be. It could be an added.
Right.
It should be.
No, for
I think
sure,
like
no.
real life school skills.
Yeah.
Should
and
be
some
an
schools
added thing.
provide that, but it's not. It should be.
No, it should be mandatory.
It should be.
across
It
the
should
board.
be. Yeah, because there are some, but that's the thing. So that's
It's
a
too
whole
spe-
nother
Yeah,
conversation.
it's too
but-
specialized. Like you,
Yeah, that's
like
a-
it should be less. That should be a part of the
Yeah.
compulsory education system.
Yeah.
Like these things should be included.
Yeah.
Teaching them how to start a business. If we hadn't have done it, they wouldn't have known how to.
Just want to give them a leg up.
give
Like
them everything
yeah, that's
we
the thing.
have.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, I think that's the beautiful thing about what we get to do with our baby.
Mhm.
Is really pour into her,
We get to start
really
sooner.
learn about her. Of course, as we do with our other children as
Yeah.
well. But at this age and stage of her life, and then even where we are too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, we're further along in our life journey. Than we were with our other children. You know what I
Mhm.
mean?
That makes a difference.
And it definitely makes a difference.
Yeah.
And we're still giving them everything that we can at the level that we can and where they are. Our oldest son, he gonna be 25 next month.
That joker, he
Yeah.
sure is.
And we're still, making sure that we're there for him and being able to counsel and lead
And
him
coach, yeah.
and coach him and where he's at. Our 21-year-old daughter, the same thing, allowing them to live their life, but also being vocal about what we see in
Mhm.
them,
Mhm.
and making sure that we, pour into them the things that we feel that are necessary, and have those
Yeah.
conversations, whether they're hard conversations, whether they're
Because sometimes they are.
sometimes they are, but also being a listening ear,
Yeah.
too, but it's just a blessing to be able to do what we can for our youngest daughter, and to provide a flexible, intentional education based on the things she's interested in, the things that her learning style, and then helping to direct her and pull some things out of her that don't have to wait, to
Right.
come forth. We
Yeah.
recognize them, and then we start nurturing them,
Right.
and so yeah, looking forward to her growth, our growth,
Yeah.
in this journey. And I'm, really looking forward to her recognizing like
Even more.
this is something that, she's needed. And I think she had a moment the other day, about that,
Yeah.
it was a tough conversation, a little frustration going on, and
Yeah.
something just clicked for her in
She was
that
like, well,
moment.
actually, I can keep doing homeschool. But and I was glad to hear it. But it was one of those things where it was like, I was really glad that we moved and we've grown to a place
Mhm.
as parents where we could let her fuss about it first.
Yeah.
Because she felt like she had some autonomy to say, no, it's fine. I want to, I'm fine to keep doing it, and
Yeah.
doing it next year too. Like I'm good with that, but she really needed to get out, her moment. And
Yeah.
I think if even when your kids are in school, I think I want us to encourage parents to not forsake even having those kinds of conversations with your kids, even
Mhm.
as they are in school, because we love and serve way too many kids in public school to be like, it's trash. That's not what we believe.
Right, for sure.
And not only that, there are still some things that we've done along the way as all of our kids have been in public school that we feel like have helped
Exactly.
along the way. Like we've still encouraged them to pursue their dreams and
Mhm.
goals.
We still have a kid in
and
public school right now.
businesses. Yeah, we
Yeah.
still have one. And so we could have pulled him too.
Mhm.
So it wasn't a matter of that. It's
Yeah. It was
for
what she
specific
needed.
needs.
Yeah,
Yes,
it was what she needed.
her specific,
Yeah.
And what we heard God saying pertaining to her. I think that's even more fair to say
Yeah.
because we have to be specific. God gave our kids one mother and one father, right? And we're anointed to be their parents,
Yeah.
but we also have to be sensitive and discerning what the Holy Spirit is telling us for each of them. And that's not just in regards to their education, but it's their discipline, how they eat, sports, their friends, their bedtimes, their privileges,
Yeah.
All of that is just, they're all different. But what they can say is that along the way, even as old as Aaron is, he still talks about how we've always supported him in pursuing his dreams and his interests and things that he's interested in. And because of that, he does get to live out his passion. He also has to work. But until his passion becomes his work, he's working to get to his passion. And, things are coming together. But now he's responsible for his relationship with the Lord and hearing what the Lord has to say to him concerning those things. And very similar with Symphony, but they all have that same story where they can say, Mom and Dad have talked to us and they've let us talk. They've made space for us. They've shared, they've leaned in, they've checked on us.
Mhm.
They've had one-on-ones with us. They've had togethers with us. We've
Right.
had family meetings and conversations about things that matter. And so all in all, we know that's contributed to them not having to fall through the cracks
Right.
as they've been in school, because parents, you have the power, you have the ability, you're anointed to fill in any weak places or any gaps that are needed, and to really come alongside your school community and find out how you can be more involved and what questions, and find out from your students what questions you need to be asking and what things do they feel like they could use your support in, because sometimes kids just need to be asked, like, is there a teacher that you feel like you're nervous when you go to their class? And who's your favorite teacher? I want to know what teachers, really make you feel great about learning.
If you could change your schedule right now, what class would you
what class would you take off? Or what teacher would you want twice?
Right. Yeah.
Those
kind of questions.
kind of questions.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Those will get to it. Those will get to the point,
Mhm.
And then you ask the what questions over the why questions.
Yes.
What's happening in this class? what's happening in, you know, this
Mhm.
this particular area that's causing you to feel this way or think this way.
Right.
What are they saying? What are they doing? You know, what questions
What is their
versus why?
behavior saying too?
Yeah, you know.
Like that's another what thing to look for. Like
Mhm.
what is their behavior, their mood
Yeah,
showing you when you bring up school, when they come home from school, when you see them, when you talk to them, when you're engaging with them. Those are all things that'll let you know when you need to dig just a little bit, you know, a little bit deeper. But all in
Yeah.
all, this is why, well, we hope you've heard a combination of several things, but for us, she was in a not the best fit campus. And because I can't recommend or think of another place we want her to be in at this point, and we feel like she is thriving as a homeschool student,
Yeah.
for now, this is kind of where we are.
yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, and then us being honest with ourselves too, because you're right. If she's something that we can't provide for her, or we can't be where if she's not going to thrive, then we would have to
Well, rethink how we do
be
things.
right, you know. And so that's important too, to be honest with yourself,
Mhm.
you know, about where you're at and about the dedication, because you know, after that first week, that second week, you know, our schedule, we had a schedule, you know what I'm saying? There were times where we didn't have no kids in the house, you know, in our schedule.
On our day
because
off.
On our day off. It was just us, you know what I mean? And so our life schedule changed as well, you know what I mean? And so understanding that is, if you do it, it's going to be a shift for everybody.
Mhm.
You know, there may be a grieving period, you know, especially for the child.
Yeah.
You know, especially if the child doesn't necessarily want it.
And it
you
was a
know.
disappointment for us too, because I never thought as an advocate for public school, like literally my entire life, I come from a family of teachers, generations, like multiple generations, like as in women in my family have started schools, like we, you know, literally started schools. And I was educated by my educator aunties at a very young age. I've always had books, always played school, always loved learning, could not wait for school, always loved school, hated to miss school, never skipped school.
See there.
Like that is me. And so we've not lost our sense of advocacy, because we still believe in, and we support teachers who are still like thriving and seeking to like build relationship and connect with students and think outside the box.
We work with educators
that are still thinking
all
outside
over
the
the
box,
nation.
all over the nation, to like really think through how they're presenting
and connecting and building relationships.
Yes.
With students and each other and families, because that stuff matters, you know.
Because it is hard for students to learn from people that they don't think like them,
right?
And it's hard for teachers to teach, you know, and get through to students when they're not sure how to connect with them.
For sure.
And so we know thousands of teachers that we have met over the last 5 years. Literally thousands of teachers that have been committed, you know, to kind of doing something different. Like for real, kudos to them that have said, you know, they may not have been sure what we're going to come share, but when, you know, our team shows up and we're talking to them about the connection between connecting with their students and building, you know, positive relationships, and the academic side, and they're seeing that connection, like we knew this, but now we have tools and we know how. There's not a greater feeling when you're serving, you know, the school system, and we've been public, private, charter, it doesn't matter. You know, you find great, amazing educators everywhere.
For sure.
And so, and since this, we've still, I have shared this with educators during some of our workshops during my time with them, that we are homeschooling. And none of them took offense to it. Several of them have said, I wish I could too, or we're going to do that, you know, when we have children. And because they're like, I know what my kids will need, and I'm going to take some time off, and I'm really going to focus on my family as well. And so we, you know, we still believe in educators that have great hearts and really are out here making a difference despite some of the things. And they know too, a lot of the decisions that you see made that you don't feel really good about, it's not coming from the teachers. I can almost guarantee that. They are subject, and they're doing everything they can to kind of like most of them are like doing this with your kids. They're
Yeah.
really absorbing.
Sometimes not even coming from the admin either.
No, it's not even usually at a building level, right? It's bigger than that. There is a system. And they are trying to, they're shielding and covering and doing everything they can to see your kids be successful. But more importantly, where we've been most concerned and most proud of the work that we've seen educators do in the way of building relationships. And a lot of the strategies that we used when we were homeschool, bringing Zoe home, were some of the very things we talked to teachers about, like listening, allowing space to be held, and getting to know and learning, continuing to learn our students and not think we just know them. And we feel like our kids deserve the exact same thing.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, good team.
Great team.
Yeah, great team.
Yes.
I love it. I'm glad to be doing it with you.
Yes, me too. And I'm glad to be doing it for Zoe.
For this
Like,
baby. Yeah.
the great
Listen,
thing.
For sure. Listen, thank y'all for watching. We appreciate y'all for tuning in. This has been a great episode, I feel like, for me personally, to talk about, to listen to you. Like, I know you just been oozing with passion.
I had to calm it down.
But it's good though.
Calm it down.
It's good though, because it's real life. Like, this is real life. These are real hearts. These are real babies. These are real situations and things that we got to work through. You all have your situation and your circumstances that you have to work through, and it's important to take it one day at a time, to be intentional about your life and your decisions, like using wisdom, whether you have children or not. Like, it's important to
come on,
analyze your life right now. What is going on? What is it that you need more of? What is it that you need less of in your life? And make the proper adjustments. I feel like that's key. And that's what we did when it came to our decision to homeschool our daughter. We took everything that we were seeing, that we were hearing, that we were learning. And it's like, okay, we got to make a move. And it's a life decision, because for one, the life behind it means more to us than, the comfort of a schedule or anything that is
or loyalty to a system that we both love. We love our baby more.
Right.
So,
there's a greater need and there's a greater cause, for it. And, for us, it started with love and started we want to be able to just do more. We realized we could do more. That's what we're doing.
Yeah.
We're going to teach her. We've been teaching her and pouring into her and giving her what she needs, and allowing her to discover.
And she's doing great.
Those things as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll keep y'all posted on it. All right.
Yes.
But other than that, we thank y'all for tuning in. Make sure that you like and subscribe. We appreciate you all. Get a chance to head over to YouTube and subscribe to Talking with the Bostons. We would love for you to support us in that way, but also stay locked in with us in our Talking with the Bostons Facebook group.
That's right.
We have a poll in there.
We have a standing poll. You guys want to
So,
learn about some things that we're really interested in as well, and that we've been learning about. So y'all know how we do. We're going to share what we have and some of the things that we'll share and that we'll have people come on and share. They may be things that you know, things that you don't know, but we're going to be students of it first, right along with you. So if you've not responded to the poll, please jump over to the Talking with the Bostons Facebook page. If you're not a part of the community and you'd like an invite, I think you can request and we can accept from you and get you right in there. But it's an active standing poll open right now. So we're still taking comments in regard to it. So let us know what you think about it. But if you're not subscribed to us and you're watching, please like and subscribe. If you've been watching this, even if you've been watching, even if you've been watching incognito, okay, if it's good, it's good. Just let us know. Talk to the algorithm on our behalf. Y'all know it don't cost you a thing. So do that, like, subscribe, and let us know if you have any questions about anything that we talked about tonight or any of the other videos. We sometimes mention that, but y'all see us in the street and be asking us
I know,
questions,
right?
then we take that too.
For sure.
But just know comment section's always open. We appreciate y'all for hanging out with us tonight and talking with the Boston.
Hey man, yeah.
Thank you, Mommy.
Precious. Yeah, we love you. Yes, we appreciate you all, and thank you for those who are following us already and subscribing.
Yeah, y'all
All
are
right,
growing this
shout out to
community
y'all.
pretty quick.
Yeah, we got some new subscribers, so that's
yes,
dope. That's dope.
thank you for that.
Yeah.
Well, it's an honor. Thank you for trusting us.
Mm-hmm.
Right, with your time and your ears. Like I said earlier, you can't unhear certain things, you can't unsee certain things.
Yeah, that's true.
And so we always want to be people who speak and think and lead with integrity where our voice is concerned. So thank you for trusting us with that, and pray for us. We pray we always live up to it.
For sure.
Yeah, in Jesus' name.
That's what's up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Listen, y'all have a great one, and we'll see y'all next time.
Bye.
Been tuned in talking with the Boston.
With the Boston. Ooh, ooh.